Hey, what's going on, you guys? This is Madam, and I'm coming back to you again. And this is the latest in the Vanessa Bryant lawsuit. Vanessa Bryant leaves courtroom in tears during testimony. Images taken at scene of the helicopter crash that killed her husband and daughter. I will list all the article writers and all the information in the description, as I always do. It says Vanessa Bryant walked out of court Thursday afternoon during testimony that described images taken at the scene of the fatal helicopter crash that killed her husband, NBA legend Kobe Bryant, and her daughter, and 7 others. The scene took place during the second day of testimony in Vanessa Bryant's federal civil lawsuit against Los Angeles County, which claims that the photos from the January 2020 helicopter crash were shared by County Fire and Sheriff's Department employees in settings irrelevant to the investigation, including at a bar. Wow, that's crazy. Kobe Bryant crashed after a pilot pushed limits and disregarded training, NTSB says. Vanessa Bryant became emotional when Victor Gutierrez, I hope I pronounced that right, a bartender, was asked if he had seen the body of her daughter, Gianna Bryant, in the images. Gutierrez had been describing what he saw in the photos saw by a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy. "You don't have to ask my permission," the judge said. Bryant did not return for the remainder of Gutierrez's testimony, which continued with a series of surveillance clips from the bar on January 28, 2020. 2 days after the crash, Gutierrez described wrenching at the photos and then admitting to telling the conditions of the victims' bodies to 5 sets of people. One person he recounted the photos to was Rafael Mendez, who later filed a complaint against the deputy who initially showed Gutierrez the photos. "I was in disbelief, disappointed, disgusted, and angry," Menendez said, referring to the details recounted to him by Gutierrez that night. "Being in the position he is, I felt he had the public's trust riding on his shoulders, and when he showed the photos of the victims, he betrayed the public's trust." Bryant sat through the conclusion of Thursday's testimony of the trial. First witness, Los Angeles Lakers general manager Rob Perkin. I apologize for mispronouncing the name. We're going to say Rob P., as well as one of the first responders. Bryant was not in court during testimony by a coroner, but returned to listen to Gutierrez's testimony before leaving the courtroom. The trial is expected to last about 2 weeks, and witnesses will likely include Vanessa Bryant and the LA County Sheriff Alex V. The suit, which was filed in September of 2020, seeks undisclosed damages and claims civil rights violations, negligence, emotional distress, and violation of privacy. A jury of 6 women and 4 men were selected for the case. They include a nun, someone who works in TV production for NBC Universal, a college student, a real estate investor, a pharmaceutical researcher, a computer science professor, and a restaurant host. Dozens of employees shared videos from the crash, lawyers said. Bryant said the disturbing images taken at the scene were shared among more than 2 dozen Los Angeles County employees. Her lawyer, Louis Lee, said on Wednesday. Lee presented a flowchart of how initial photos spread from one deputy to more than a dozen deputies and more than a dozen members of the Los Angeles County Fire Department. Some photos were shared between deputies as they played the Call of Duty video game, Lee said in his opening statement. Vanessa Bryant wiped away tears as Lee described the way sheriff's deputies captured and shared the photos. They took the pictures of broken bodies, close-up of limbs, of burnt flesh, the attorney said. It shocked the consensus. Surveillance footage played in court showed one of the deputies at the bar showing a photo to the bartender, who recoiled and turned away after seeing the image. Never in her worst nightmares did Bryant imagine the police and first responders would go and they would be the ones to take the pictures of Kobe and Gianna's remains for no reason, Lee said. The attorney said county employees did not cause the accident on January 26, 2020, but accused them of exploiting it, which they did, saying they poured salt in the unhealed wound, which is still, I'm assuming, still healing. The defense emphasized that the photos had not been leaked online or to the media and cautioned jurors to separate the tragedy of the crash from the facts of the case about the photos. The families suffered unspeakable loss, but that is about the helicopter crash, said Amir Hashmal, an attorney representing the LA County. This case is about the first responders and what they did. Lakers GM sobbed during the testimony. Wednesday's proceedings ended with the testimony of Rob P., general manager of the Los Angeles Lakers, who sobbed as he described being best friends with Kobe Bryant and goddaughter Gianna on the day of the crash. P said that he helped Vanessa Bryant seek assurances from the sheriffs that the site would be secure from the people trying to take photos of the scene. P also shared the terror and anxiety and grief he saw in Vanessa Bryant's saw in Vanessa Bryant after she learned the crime scene photos were being circulated among deputies. In addition to Bryant, a second plaintiff is Christopher Chester, who lost his wife Sarah and their daughter Peyton. In the crash, Chester's attorney, Jerome Jackson, said the photos from the scene may have captured disturbing scenes of Sarah's remains. Why would anyone use those same photos for ballroom banter and cocktail chatter, Jackson said. A key argument in the case is whether first responders should have taken the crash photos in the first place. The defense claimed they were valid reasons for the site photos since the crash was a mile up in the mountainside at an elevation of 12,050 feet. Hashmal said that the deputy took the photos of more than just bodies. If the deputy didn't document the scene as he was trained, Hashmal said, he would have not been able to inform the command center, which was taken with not only search and recovery, but also battling a wildfire sparked by the crash. If you don't have a picture, she said, you cannot craft a response. David Krabs, a reserve deputy with the Los Angeles County's Malibu Search and Rescue Unit, testified that he was told by a supervisor not to take photos of the crash site once it was learned Kobe Bryant was among the victims. But when he arrived at the scene, he found that a deputy had already taken photos. When asked by the defense if he was surprised that the deputy had taken the photos, Kratz said not at all. It would stand to reason that the command post would want to know what they were dealing with. Later, Captain Emily T. from the Los Angeles County's coroner's office testified that the office did not ask deputies to take pictures of the remains. T said during its cross-examination that the office had relied on first responders' photos in the past because the scene might change from the time that the incident happened to when the coroner gets on the scene. The defense conceded that the photos should have not spread as they did, but maintained the county's earlier action effectively contained it. We're being sued over pictures that aren't online, aren't in media, and have never been seen by the plaintiff, Hashmail said. Bryant's attorney told the jurors he will show that the county's actions did not fully contain the spread of the photos and that they still surfaced online. Wow. Following the accident, Sheriff V told CNN the department was conducting an investigation and 8 deputies were facing administrative actions due to their accusations that they shared the photos of the crash with people outside of the investigation. The sheriff said in March 2020 that all photos of the scene that were in deputies' possessions had been deleted. Months later, Vanessa Bryant's lawyers filed a motion claiming the department's actions amounted to destroying evidence. Wow. And that is the end of the, article. It is the second day. It's really high emotionally. I don't see how they could resolve themselves from this. The sheriff's department, anybody that was involved, especially morally, when you like I said in my first video, they did not have any respect for any of the victims that were involved in this tragic crash that had happened in 2020, regardless of who the person was. Not to take away from the people that died in the plane crash, or Kobe Bryant or his daughter. However, it's just really sad to know that these people would do that, and just why would you at a bar? I mean, it just blows my mind that people would have the gall to do that. But yeah, I will keep you updated with this story as I do with any of my other stories. If you stayed around this long, thank you so much for just coming and watching my videos. I truly do appreciate it. And with that being said, I will get with you guys in the next video.